Hi chaps, Simo P here from Beard, Biceps and Batchat. Today I wouldn't focus too much on the gameplay, it is incredible, it's amazing. But I want to talk a little bit about the new update we've got incoming for the console, update 3.5. The update itself is going to bring some fairly big and interesting changes. We've got physics incoming. You've probably seen a little bit of it if you've ever watched any any PC gameplay. We've also had some nerfs and some buffs along the lines. 90% of that is sort of tier 1 to 5. And we're also getting some changes to the minimap as well, which will look quite good. I'm not really going to focus on the sort of perceived negatives on it too much or cover it all. I'm just going to focus on the points and the updates that interest me and that I think could be quite exciting. So the biggest change that's coming is physics. So that means it should be more realistic. We'll be able to roll over. If you're going too fast around a corner, you're going to flip your tank. I've seen a couple of people a little bit worried about it, saying it's going to break the game. But it's been on PC for a long time, and the game's still going strong. So I don't think it's going to be too game breaking. I think it'll open up more areas of the maps. I've seen a couple of replays on a PC where you can play cliff slightly differently because you can go up the left hand cliff face differently. I also think it's going to make for a few more special moments, maybe barrel rolling kill shots. I imagine it'll make for some entertaining streaming and YouTubing, and hopefully it'll allow certain maps to be played different ways rather than having your sort of traditional areas of engagement, your hotspots on maps. We may see different areas of maps that become more important because they're accessible, maybe more interesting places TDs can get to. It'll just spice the game up a little bit and ensure people have to play a little differently, consider different things. So any changes like that, I'm all for. I think it will be really fun and really interesting. The next thing I wanted to talk about that I thought was quite interesting was the changes to the minimap. From now on, it's just going to be the full map you see, rather than a sort of dwarfed in portion. You don't really have a choice with it now. I think generally being able to see the full map is going to allow people to have better map awareness. Whether they take advantage or not is another thing entirely. The second thing that they're bringing into the minimap is the Detectability range circle. So you'll see it with outer dashes, big circle around you. Now this isn't your view range as you might think it would be or should be, but it's rather who can see you or who can spot you. Now this isn't affected by camo from bushes because this is calculated from the environment rather than from your tank. So think of it as a sort of light guide who could potentially see you depending on the cover you're in, the environment you're in, the crew skills they have, and then the crew skills you have. So that'll sort of change. So it gives you a general idea but not a full indication of how often you're going to be spotted. To me, I was a little disappointed with this because I would have preferred it to be your own view range rather than where you can be seen from. But I understand why they've done it that way, because now there'll also be a blue view range cone. Now this is essentially from the direction you're facing will be a blue cone of what you can see. The cone will change shape if you're in sniper mode, in normal mode, and it'll just allow you to see how far you can spot. It'll also change if you've got binos or additional skills that increase your view range. Now I think this will be extremely handy. It'll allow you to see if you're a light tank, for example, what areas of the map you can spot, what you can't see, if there's any sort of blind areas you're not covering where potentially you should be covering. So I think it'll add a nice tactical element rather than having to zoom in just to see how far away a hill is to sort of gauge if you can peer into a breach and spot the enemy or not. So I think that'll be quite useful, very useful in fact. The other thing that they've introduced alongside with physics is the handbrakes. So essentially you can use an emergency brake on one track or two tracks, hopefully doing a 180 turn. I can imagine this being very, very useful for light tanks. The biz that I'm driving around at the moment, essentially you've got to drive it like you're jousting. So being able to do a 180 turn to go back on a tank and put another shot into them will be ideal. or if you're circling a tank, so you can turn a bit more sharply. And if you're ducking and diving, trying to get into cover, being able to suddenly sort of swerve to one side will be a big use. But I imagine you'll be able to use it with sort of larger tanks like the mouse that you're seeing here. If you're in a position where you might normally be gradually rolling downhill, you can literally just put the handbrake on, keep yourself from moving. It'll be interesting to see how it works alongside flipping, if it has a big effect, and what the sort of fine line is between turning quickly round a corner and how much it affects your flipping. It's probably worth pointing out with flipping, what we have, I don't think the PC has, is after 10 seconds you get righted. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. I quite like it. It's a nice little bit of a fail-safe design if you really do end up in a special situation and no one's helping you flip back over. The last little bits I wanted to touch on were the buffs and nerfs to the tanks. As I said before, the majority are sort of tier 1 to 5, and I'm not particularly that overly interested in. The ones I thought that were quite interesting were the nerfs to TD view range. The Borsig got nerfed, the Waffle got nerfed for their view range. There's a sort of perceived problem with TDs at a higher tier, with them being overpowered and a nerf needing to be done to them. I don't particularly see view range as being the most ideal way to do it. In the sort of early to mid games, higher tier TDs aren't spotting for themselves anyway. It's being done by lights and medium tanks, so their view range is ultimately largely irrelevant. It's, I suppose, late game when you're able to spot them before they can spot you, as most mediums and heavies at tier 10 have 400 meter view range. It could then become a bit more useful. I suppose a better way to balance them potentially may have been to lower the alpha damage but up their reload, so they effectively have the same DPM but they're not doing it in 1, 2 or 3 shots across a minute. But what do I know? WG know best. So I'll be interested to know what you guys think about the update. What's got you happy about it, and what's triggered you and made you rage. Let me know in the comment section below, and like and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content, guys.